Hey, welcome into the Sync Truth Podcast alongside Mike Evans. I am Mark Schlereth. Thank you so much for making us a part of your day. Appreciate you guys. It's time for the leftovers, which was, my experience last weekend between the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Seattle Seahawks. Seattle Seahawks taking that victory. I think it was 20-12 or whatever it was. But, really interesting kind of week of preparation, interesting week of kind of getting to know these two teams, and a really interesting game just overall from the perspective of, how do you respond to a big-time win on a Monday night if you're the Jacksonville Jaguars? Didn't respond very well.
Okay, then why? I think that's probably the biggest question that Jags fans have. How can you look so good and so energized in beating the Chiefs and then turn around still at home and not be able to match that kind of effort, focus, and intensity?
Yeah, it really interesting. A couple of things that went down. They lost their starting center, Robert Hainsey, and they had to play a rookie in there at the center position. And I thought the Seahawks did a phenomenal job of attacking their protections. A couple of times they got their two best players on one side, so they were using Leonard Williams inside and DeMarcus Lawrence just outside of him on the same side. So they were running games. They were doing some things with protection that way that were really, really good. I thought the other thing about the Seattle Seahawks, and I know you asked me about Jacksonville, but the other thing they did really well, they lost three starting defensive backs. Julian Love, who I think is as good as safety as we have in this league. They lost Devin Witherspoon, who I think might be the best nickel guy in football. And they also lost Reek Woolen, tall, long, 6'4", kind of, athlete, can really run at the cornerback position. And they made a couple of mistakes early in that game that led to the first touchdown. Jacksonville went on the board 6-0. They missed the extra point. And after that, man, they played lockdown defense. I mean, lockdown defense. But here is kind of my biggest takeaway when it comes to Jacksonville. You paid your quarterback $275 million, okay? And he is oftentimes unbelievably good and unbelievably bad in the same freaking drive. And it's mind-boggling. Now, I know that every guy develops at a different rate, right? I mean, look at Baker Mayfield. We just talked about him in an earlier podcast being in the MVP of the league right now. Remember, he got dumped by Cleveland. He got dumped by Carolina. He got dumped by,
the Rams.
The Rams. So you look at what he's been. He had to sign a make good deal. And then, it just is incredible what the guy's been able to do. And so every guy develops at a different rate. I think the other thing for Trevor Lawrence is he came in the league and, he had Urban Meyer, and that didn't work out. Then he had Doug Peterson. And, from a coaching standpoint, from a footwork standpoint, he never really developed like those great habits. And every now and again, he reverts to bad habits because you've been doing that for 5 or 6 years, and all of a sudden you say, hey, here's my new footwork. You're going to, under duress, you're going to revert. And I think that's one of the things that happened to him in yesterday's game, in Sunday's game, because there were so many opportunities where he had open receivers, where it was a high ball off the fingers or it was on the ground. And one of the things that you have to do as a quarterback with accuracy, you have to indicate leverage of the defender with the placement of the ball. So you are articulating with the throw. You are saying to your receiver, I'm putting the ball here because the DB is coming to knock you out here, so I want you to turn away from the defender. So I'm going to place the ball on your outside shoulder or your inside shoulder. So you are basically communicating the leverage of the defender with the placement of the ball. So you can spin out and get yards after catch.
Or get down and protect yourself.
Yeah, yards after catch, Mike, really are indicative of placement of the ball. And he was horrendous yesterday in that. So they didn't get yards after the catch because those guys were fighting to get to the ball. And I wish I would have said that on the broadcast because it made me sound a lot smarter, but I didn't. But you know what? You think about things on the as they're happening, and I think that was one of the things that's just kind of a major takeaway is they didn't have situations where a ball was caught, the receiver gets another 5 yards, and now it's 2nd down and 4 as opposed to 2nd down and 8. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And those are the things that I thought happened in that game for Jacksonville.
So after seeing Jacksonville, they're 4-2. What would be your message to Jags fans? Who are the Jags? Are they closer to the team that looked so impressive in beating Kansas City, or the team that didn't respond and lost to Seattle?
No, I think they're a better team, a much better team than they played and they showed yesterday. But again, they're going to have to protect their quarterback so he can be on target and on time. And then the other thing is, I think that they need – I mean, I know that Trevor Lawrence got knocked out last year, right, and missed. He had the shoulder surgery after that. Like, he was having shoulder issues. Once he got knocked out and was going to be on IR, they went ahead and fixed his shoulder and did all that stuff. It was Aziz Al-Shire from the Houston Texans that hit him, as he was sliding late. And I put that more on the quarterback than I do on the defender. But, I get that people were up in arms and they were pissed off and he got suspended for a game, whatever. But I really think they need to take advantage from a play calling standpoint of Trevor Lawrence's athleticism, get him out of the pocket, get some designed runs, get him going. I think he plays better in those circumstances, and I think it makes – it just gives you an added dimension to your offense that's hard to defend. And so I think they need to do that. I think defensively they're pretty damn good. And I think they're just going to continue to play to play better. They've got some changes. They made a trade. They went out and got Greg Newsome. They traded away kind of their best athlete at the cornerback position. In Campbell, but they got Newsome, who did get beat deep yesterday. But bottom line is I think this is a good football team. But I got to give a lot of credit to the Seahawks.
Yeah, I want to set that up because those of you watching this as a Seahawk fan, Mark's called a lot of Seattle games over the years, and I'm just kind of curious because you've been able to watch the remaking of the Seattle Seahawks, kind of the rebranding, the rebuilding, if you will, going from the days of Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson, Pete Carroll and Geno Smith, to what we're watching now. And I think it's been pretty impressive how they've been kind of able to kind of retool on the fly without having that really, extended, long setback and rebuilding period that a lot of teams have to go through.
Yeah, really interesting. I had a long talk with John Schneider, their GM,
and he's the constant, isn't he?
He's Mike McDonald, their head coach, called him the Godfather.
Yeah,
he's like the Godfather knows everybody, and John has been a friend, and John is a guy that will really lay it out to you pretty straight. And going through the whole kind of should we keep Geno Smith, the DK Metcalf trade, all those different things. Where John was like, listen, man, we're going to retool this offense. We're going to retool this offense from a, who we're going to hire standpoint. That was Mike McDonald. Mike McDonald, you have to remember, Mike McDonald was on the Ravens staff when Gary Kubiak was the offensive coordinator in 2014. And he said in that 2014 season, that was the best that Joe Flacco ever played. And he knew, having, defended, called plays or defended that scheme, how difficult that scheme was to defend. And so he's like, I want that scheme. They went with this collegiate scheme the year before, didn't work out. They want that scheme. So they hire Clint Kubiak to be the coordinator. He brings some of his guys like Rick Dennison with him and all that. And the next thing you know, the other thing that was important in that continuity aspect of that is that Sam Darnold, I have so much respect for Sam Darnold because, one, he decided, I'm not going to play for a year. I'm just going to sit as a backup and learn. And I'm going to work my ass off, but I'm going to learn offensive football from Kyle Shanahan. So he did that. Then he went to Minnesota. And remember, that's from the same tree with Kevin O'Connell. Now, Kevin O'Connell will run a lot more 3 wide receiver sets, where Kyle Shanahan run a lot more 2-back sets, 2 tight end sets, all that stuff. But it's all the same verbiage. Your F is kind of your motion receiver. So in an 11 personnel grouping, 3 wide receivers, your F is a wide receiver. In a 12 grouping, your F is your tight end, your second tight end. So, but it's exactly the same terminology or same, verbiage. And so then you go to Minnesota and play in the system. Then you come to Clint Kubiak. It's the same system. It's just a combination of the two. And then to say, hey, man, you know what? We're going to move on from Geno. We're going to go after, Sam Darnold and have all the information about what Sam Darnold did, the way he worked, the way he progressed, all those things. And then, hey, man, we're going to get rid of and move off of DK Metcalf because we think Smith and Jigba is ready to go. And, hey, Tyler Lockett's been a great Seahawk for a long time, but we're moving on from him. We're going to go out and get Cooper Kupp. And then, you watch how a guy like Cooper Kupp, who Clint Kubiak told me got a Hall of Fame brain.
Yeah.
He's like, he will run across a formation. First off, I always talk about him being involved in the run game. But he said he'll motion across a formation and be screaming out what coverage they're in. And then, run an option route based on the coverage and the leverage that guy has. It's like, he's unbelievable. He's in every quarterback meeting. Hey, we need to look at this. And then just them talking about the influence he's had on Smith and Jigba. And how you put your football team together, it matters. It matters. Mike McDonald just goes, man, the number one thing about Sam Darnold, he's a dude. Yeah. He's like, that was my number one. Like, we all talk about arm talent. The draft comes along. Arm talent. You got to have arm talent. How's for your 40? What kind of vertical jump? Can you jump over a box? Mike McDonald goes, you know what's the number one thing that I want, my quarterback? And this is what Sam Darnold is. He's a dude. Guys love him. They love playing with him. He's tough. You know what? And he's calloused from all the shit that he had to deal with Carolina, with the Jets. I mean, the guy is calloused. And I just thought it was cool, man. I think the Seattle Seahawks are a damn good football team.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you last question. Where do they kind of fit in the NFC hierarchy? They're an interesting team. I mean, how impressive is it that they're 3-0 on the road? They're 1-2 at home. They're 3-0 at the road.
I think they're 9-1 in road games under Mike McDonald.
Right, that tells you something there. There's some toughness there. There's that. They're a team that's
it might be 10-1. I think they've won 9 straight.
Built to travel on the road. So where do they fit? To me, they look like a wild card. I still think they're a wild card team, but boy, they're going to be a wild card team. That are they the proverbial nobody wants to play this team come playoff time? If you're a favorite at home and you draw these guys,
they keep getting better and better. They can condense formations and get big and beat you that way. They can spread you and get little and beat you that way. Defensively, man, when they get their defensive backfield back, like seriously, when they get that back, like they don't have what I would call an elite level edge rusher, but DeMarcus Lawrence is really, really good. Leonard Williams can be unblockable. And the way they rotate their defensive line, keep those guys fresh when they bring in Nuwasu or they bring in Mafe, and they have these rotational packages. They can get after your quarterback. I tell you, they're an impressive football team.
Yeah, and I'm not discounting their chances of winning the NFC West. They're 4-2 with the 49ers and Rams. Do you like? I mean, if you were handicapping the NFC West right now, how would you rank those three teams?
I'd probably put the Rams slight favorite over Seattle, than the Niners. And the Niners they're incredible what they've done with all the injuries they have. But at some point, dude, like there's a reason there's backups and there's a reason there's starters because the starters are, let me think, better than the backups.
Next man up only can take
Next
so
man
far.
up is a really cool theory. It's one of those really cool theories until you put a guy in that sucks. then you're like,
but you're the next man up.
you're the next man up. We didn't know you couldn't play, you know? I mean, that's just the way that goes.
Yes.
Anyhow, for everybody involved in the Sink and Shoot podcast, the Leftover Show, we thank you so much for making us a part of your day. For Mike, I am Mark. We'll talk to you guys later on in the week.